indeed. Now, former Daily Mail editor Paul Dacre has withdrawn from the running to become the next chairman of the media watchdog Ofcom. In a letter to the Times, he said he had decided not to reapply for the role despite the government's decision to rerun the appointment process. Dacre said he would instead be taking up an exciting new job in the private sector, despite many senior members of the government urging him to try again. Well, to find out what all this means for the media landscape, we're joined by Martin Campbell, who was the former chief advisor to Ofcom. Martin, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, Dacre says that there's no point in reapplying because Ofcom is part of the blob, and unless you've got trendy centre-left views that are very popular in a few central London postcodes, there's no point in applying because you'll never get the job. Is he being fair?
Yeah, I think he's probably got it about right there, because I think the whole thing has fallen foul of the idea that you're not allowed to have right-wing views in a job like this, but having left-wing views don't count as having views. And I think when he probably sat down and had a good think about what would happen at Ofcom, he wouldn't be in the same position as he was at the Daily Mail to click his fingers and have people running, because Ofcom runs very much like its own little civil service. And obviously, one of the things that he would have to battle with is a thing that a lot of people are worried about, and that is Ofcom's definition of hate speech, which it won't take too long, but I'll have to read it because I can't remember it. And of course, he would have to preside over this. And the definition of hate speech is all forms of expression which spread, incite, promote, or justify hatred based on intolerance on the grounds of disability, ethnicity, social origin, sex, gender, gender reassignment, nationality, race, religion, or belief, sexual orientation, colour, genetic features, language, political or any other opinion, that's an interesting one, membership of a national minority, another one, property, birth, or age. Well, I imagine that the sort of decisions made on that definition that would be made by Ofcom, he'd find very difficult to sign off.
Yeah, I can imagine that too. And there are also words, aren't there, that Ofcom disapprove of. We've been told here at GB News we can't use the term Ramona. I find it absolutely astonishing. I view Ramona as more of a teasing term than anything else. By the way, I've completely ignored the advice for the last few weeks. It wasn't what happens. But generally, you know, there are some government regulators in sectors that are enormously heavy-handed, and you know, the industries that are regulated by them scream blue murder. Generally, would it be fair and reasonable to say that even though Dacre has a very good point, that Ofcom generally deals with things in a fairly gentle sort of way?
Well, it does, but there's a great political blur with Ofcom and the government, as you've come across in the past. The big problem is when David Cameron came into power, he said there was going to be a bonfire of quangos, and Ofcom would be at the top of the bonfire. And of course, what happened then was there was a massive problem with the content of some music videos, so he immediately needed something to put between himself and the problem. So Ofcom didn't find itself on the top of the bonfire of quangos. And then Theresa May, when there were questions raised about the content of Russia Today, stood up in Parliament and said, I have instructed Ofcom to investigate Russia Today. Well, that's not supposedly the role that government and Ofcom have. And there is a big blur between that. So, yeah, it's an opaque relationship.
So who is the hot favourite to get the job if it's not going to be Paul Dacre?
Well, this Nigel is deja vu all over again. What you've got when Paul Dacre was rejected by the panel, the process was then changed. Remind you of anything? And now it looks as if they're going to shoehorn in Ed Vaizey, who now Lord Vasey, who was Minister of Culture. And he had questions to answer when he was Minister of Culture about money he received from consultancy. That remind you of anything? So, you know, I think probably they'll probably go for Ed Vasey. But I think it's a shame, because I think Paul Dacre would have been an inspired choice.
Yeah, well, thank you very much indeed, Martin Campbell. And the thought, I have to say, of Lord Vasey does not cheer up my Sunday morning. But thank you very much indeed for joining us.